All right, good morning. I'm downtown Logan Brown,
I'm Braydon.
and this is the Pickleball Effect podcast.
Here we are again, another week, another episode. Today we have a few hot topics we're going to start our discussion with, then some Babble, and then some average Joes talking pros.
All right, dude, let's get into it. All right, so hot topics of the week. Where do you want to start? This is there's some fun stuff that happened, just since we last recorded.
Yeah, there's a bunch of fun stuff. But Logan, I need some life advice before we jump into these hot topics.
Oh, please. Yeah.
This is a potential opportunity I could do to enhance my quality of life. So I currently work a 9-to-5 job and do the Pickleball Effect stuff on the side just for fun. I really enjoy doing it, but I can't help but think that if I were to dedicate more time to Pickleball Effect, that I could really blow it up and turn it into a potential way to support my family and do something that I love doing. So I do the 9-to-5 thing. It's okay. Like, I don't mind it, but I've never been into it. I've never really liked working for the man. I've always wanted to own my own time. My dad's been an entrepreneur his whole life.
Yeah.
And I've always liked that idea, that life cycle, or that lifestyle. And so here I got a family, right? I got 3 kids. Or 2 kids, one on the way, wife, house, mortgage. I got bills to pay, right? But if I were to drop my current gig and go full-time Pickleball Effect, one of the things you really have to start paying for is like just insurance. Like, health insurance is super expensive.
Oh yeah.
So there's this indoor pickleball place coming indoor close to where I live. It's going to be 18 courts. They're calling it the Flying Pickle, and I'm really excited about it. And so I know the owners, and they posted some jobs on Facebook for a front desk job. So I was talking to the owner. I was like, can I, what if I did this? What if I go do this front desk job? And he's like, if you work 30 hours a week, we do offer health insurance. And I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. It's a front desk job. I'll probably have a lot of downtime. I could write and make content during most of the day while I'm just sitting there at the front desk. So obviously I wouldn't get paid as much. It'd be like, $14 an hour or something.
Okay.
But it could potentially improve my quality of life. I might enjoy my days a little more. I could spend more time on pickleball, and I would just be hanging out at an indoor place most of the day for 30 hours a week. Do I do it?
Well, I like it. I like following your passion for sure. So you're defining improvement of quality of life is doing something you're more passionate about, or
I just want to enjoy my days more rather than just pushing through until I can get off work, hang out with the fam, and do normal life stuff.
All right. So here's my question. Maybe you know this answer. Someone like you, who is a very talented pickleball player, I'd be curious to know, let's say you were 30 hours a week as the head pro of flying pickleball.
No.
You don't want to do that.
I'm not even close to that level. Plus they have like, so Susanna Barr lives here. She's going to be the head pro. They've got
how much time can she really give to that place when she's on tour?
They got that stuff figured out, and I don't think I'm good enough to fit in there anyways.
Really? You don't think that you could sit there and give lessons and do clinics? And if you filmed all of it,
I could
cut it up into content.
I could do like lower level clinics to like intermediate, but nothing advanced. I don't know. That I could potentially do something else that's not front desk, but I like the idea of the front desk just because
I can write and whatever.
I can write, I can edit, I can just spend way more time doing Pickleball Effect stuff, which could potentially bring more revenue that way.
Can you tell me like what could you feasibly shoot for? Do you think, like, can you make $100,000 a year?
I think I could, but I do split some of the portion I make with my brother. He helps me with some operational stuff, and he writes some content for me. So we do split it there. But no, it's decent. Like, the amount of like revenue I come in before taxes, it's not bad. Like, I probably could quit and live right now, but like I could probably still pay my mortgage. It's very volatile. Like, some months are good, some months are low. It's just not consistent, right? And so it's just kind of scary that way. Plus, there's probably a lot of fees or just expenses that I just don't realize. Like health insurance, dental insurance. I don't know, there's just a lot of stuff that you get through a normal job that you just don't think about.
But if you're getting a lot more time back with the family, like that's the one thing that I would consider is if and I know you're going to work more than 30 hours a week because you're going to spend all this time filming and editing, but if you can gain time back with the family, especially with a third kid on the way, that's huge.
It'd be fun if I could do it sometime next year. I don't know. Something I'm thinking about. But moving on to hot topics. So Cincy was this weekend. We had another streaker come through. This is the same tournament where a streaker came through last year. So it's turning into this like tradition. Do you think PPA set it up?
I think PPA is signing this guy. I think he's officially signed, just like the hype guys. There's a reason the hype guys weren't invited to this tournament. I think that's because
they couldn't outshine the streaker.
They couldn't outshine the streaker. I mean, unless you're willing to get into a banana hammock and run across the court, hype guys, I'm sorry. Like you're just not gonna make the cut.
And then another big storyline that's been a hot topic all over the pickleball forums is the beef between Loong and Tyson McGuffin. So this was on Thursday. Tyson beats Loong in singles. It was like the quarterfinals or something. So the match is over. Tyson's walking across Loong's bench. I don't think Tyson realizes the camera's on him.
Nope.
He starts talking to Loong, flips him the bird. It's all on camera. And then Loong, kind of puts on this show afterwards where he's like clapping for Tyson as he walks away and he's like bowing to him. Really, it was kind of weird. And then it comes out later that Tyson was, supposedly telling Tyler what he thought about him talking about his wife on his podcast. I don't quite know the details exactly what was said, but it was something about that. But what did you think of that situation? Like, how is that handled how is it handled? How did you think they handled it? Should the PPA fine McGuffin for flipping the bird on camera? What was your thoughts on that?
Well, I saw it unfold live. I think I might have been the first account to put on Instagram, not going to lie, because the timing lined up. I
follow Sunday Dinking Club.
That's right. Yeah. 300 followers. It's sick. So I have a desk up here that I'm sitting at and I have a TV across the room. And so when the PPA is on during the week, I'll just throw it on mute and I'll just have it over there. And so this was around lunchtime. I had sat down, I had a bowl of ramen, right? And I'm looking over and all of a sudden I see Tyson flicking Tyler off. So I hit the rewind button. I'm like, what is going on here? And I turn the volume on. So the announcers are just talking and the camera pans over to him. And he just, all of a sudden, Tyler sits down and Tyson looks over at him, flicks him off, calls him a name. And then you can't make out the rest of the stuff. But Dave Fleming catches on really fast. And he was like, I guess Tyson's got some choice words for Tyler here. And I thought the first thing that came to mind as soon as he did it were two things. But right in the post-game interview, Adam Stone says, hey, we saw some off-camera banter. So even then, I don't think Tyson knew he was on camera. And he said, oh, it's just boys being boys. He mentioned my name on his podcast. I didn't really like what he had to say. And he's like, but that's that. And Tyson, I don't think at that point knew that the whole thing.
And this, as far as virality goes for pickleball stuff, this went viral. This was all over the place. Every pickleball account picked it up. There's tons of discussions about it. People arguing, for Tyson, some arguing for Loong. Do you have a side that you think was right or wrong?
Well, here I have two things to mention about this.
Okay.
When I first heard it, I thought that maybe he was upset with Tyler about the PPA decision. That's probably me going deep, but I was thinking
flicking him off for staying with the PPA.
No, you had texted me about a rumor that some PPA people were going to bail on MLP. And that was the same day you would maybe the day after you texted me that. So I was thinking, what if Tyler had kind of what if he had decided right there and Tyson had found out that he was just going to bail on MLP and maybe he was pissed off that that Tyler was going to do that to his team and MLP and stuff. But then he said in the post-game interviews were
they on the same team? They're not on the same team, were they?
No, I just thought Tyson's been in the game for almost a decade, and so is Tyler. They know each other, I'm sure.
Right.
But yeah, so it ends up. I think it's mostly about the podcast. And here's what I'll say about it: the way that Tyson went about this was really bad. He should have saved this for off the court at least, because Coop Nation on Twitter basically overlaid audio from Tyson's podcast where he's proclaiming he is he's the people's guy. He is always respectful. I mean, it couldn't have played out worse for him as far as like optics. But I will say that King of the Court podcast gets a lot of views, and I think it's because people really want to know what the heck's going to come out of Jimmy's mouth.
Sure.
And I would love for Tyler to be a little more assertive for sticking up for some people. And I think what he's upset about is that it's not really what Tyler said. It's what Jimmy said.
That's what Jimmy said.
And Jimmy was giving Tyson a hard time because apparently, and you know how it goes, like Jimmy is he's like total third party news type of guy, but he's saying that he, as another PPA player, saw Tyson going through the airport and his wife was dragging all the bags while Tyson was just walking in front of her. And I have no idea what the context is. He could have been chasing his kids down the way or something. But Tyler didn't stand up for him either. So that's what I think he's upset about, is that, hey, dude, you've known me for a decade and you know my character or whatever. That's what I'd be mad about, is if my buddy didn't stick up for me when this other guy who's kind of a loudmouth is saying bad things about you.
Yeah, maybe they're not buddies. I don't know.
Maybe they're not. Yeah.
But yeah, I think both players lose in that situation. I don't agree with the way Tyson went about it. Like, yes, if he feels wrong, talk to him. Conflict is healthy. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But didn't like the way he did it. Obviously, I'm sure he didn't mean to be caught on camera, but it was not a good look for him.
Yeah.
Probably should be fined. Like, if stuff like that happens for any other sport and it's caught on camera, like, they're probably going to get fined. And then Loong, his reaction was so strange to me. I thought it was a bad look for him. He didn't receive obviously Tyson was coming at him hot, so like it's hard to keep cool headed. But like, his reaction was, I thought, unwarranted. Both of them looked bad, and unfortunate for them, because I think they definitely lost some points in a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah, I hate to see it. But anyway, we'll get past it, and hopefully other players learn. I mean, it's just we've seen some funny stuff like this too, like Anna Leigh, and was it Vivian David or something not long ago, where she was chirping at her about her placements of her shots. And
I didn't hear about that one.
I hate to spread rumors. It wasn't Vivian. It might have not been Vivian David, but there was this time where there was rumors that Anna Leigh was cursing at another player, calling her names because she was saying things on the court she didn't like. So I don't know.
So a
little immature right now.
No. So the next topic to round out our hot topics is a tweet that you brought up. You brought to me. This is a tweet from a burner account talking about some like insider information about some MLP PPA stuff. Tell us what that tweet was and the conversation that followed.
Yeah, I mean, well, first we'll define burner account for the folks listening who don't know what that means. But essentially, we have a suspected account on Twitter that we think is coming from a credible source, but the name of the account is so unknown, or like you would never know who's behind it. I think it's it was like
PB44666 or something. Yeah,
I don't know, something crazy. So Jeremy, who was on the podcast a couple weeks ago from No Man's Land NML Pickleball, he retweeted this, which I saw. And to set the background, he had claimed that he does not know who runs this account. Other tweets from this account turned out to be true in the past. And so this one, we have no idea if it's true.
So this isn't necessarily a new burner account. Like, this has been around for a bit.
Yeah, I think it's been around for a little bit. Yeah, and he said that other tweets that have been tweeted by this account turned out to be truthful. So they had kind of tweeted out that multiple players are talking about not showing up to MLP, and that with the Atlanta trip coming up in just a couple of weeks, that event, and then there's a potential deal between MLP and PPA that's happening right now that should come to fruition soon, is what they're saying. But I've seen two accounts now mention this merger. A merger was named, and then also like a deal. So I don't know what's what.
Yeah, it's some interesting information. It's hard to comment on. We don't really know what the source is, but there could be some credibility behind it, something to keep your eye on.
Yeah, I really think by the time we talk next week, because if people aren't coming to MLP and they need to do some drastic moves to make sure that tournament turns out.
Yeah, if people don't show up, right? Like, I know there's been rumors of like a redraft. You know, the plausibility of that happening seems like just hard to pull off kind of operationally. Like, I imagine they'll just call people up, you know, say, 5, 6 people don't show up. You know, you just bring in, people from Challenger, or there's other people that'll fill in.
Yeah, the tough part is if it's your star.
Yeah,
I don't think Ben Johns is going to
some
be able
teams
to.
are going to get toasted. Like, it's just bad luck for them.
Yeah, and I think those owners have to like also be not accountable for the players, but I'm hoping that they're in contact with them, saying, "Listen, like, let's make
Like,
this
come
happen."
play, yeah.
Yeah,
Because this is a big season, right? Like, this depends, or performance here will determine where your team lands, whether it's Premier or Challenger next season. And so there's a lot of weight on these games.
yeah,
And so if you're an owner and your star player decides not to show up, you potentially lost a lot of money because your team gets knocked down to Challenger. You're not going to get the
not much
players,
airtime, and you're
not
not.
much airtime. Yeah, a lot of losses there. So them not showing up affects a lot of different things than just themselves. Like this, as we're talking about it, like, this decision has a lot of weight on more than just them. So them not showing up is pretty selfish.
It is, especially since we didn't see some mass exodus this weekend from MLP players at PPA. Like, I would hope there's some sort of mutual respect right now with the players. Just like do what you're contracted to do for this year.
Right. And with the two tours still battling, I would think as a player showing up to MLP, like, I want to kind of keep, the communication lines open there. And if PPA falls through the floor or something, or vice versa. And so it's, you're kind of putting all your eggs in one basket that way if you don't show up. So it's definitely some potential risks. I don't know if the PPA is incentivizing the people not to go. It's tough to say, but definitely a lot of ripple effects that could happen as a result of someone not showing up.
Agreed. We'll see what happens. I think by the time we're talking next week, we'll have some answers.
All right, moving on to the next section, we're gonna do Padel Babble. So this is gonna be a little shorter than normal. Just a couple of things, a couple of bullets here we're gonna walk through. So rather, the first one is just talking about paddle customization and just kind of fine tuning your paddle to fit you. So I published a video a couple of days ago about a test I did. My goal of this test was to find the lead tape placement on a paddle that gives you the most bang for your butt. Oh boy. But my goal for this was get the highest impact on twist weight while having the lowest impact on swing weight and just the overall static weight of the paddle. So,
all right, say it again. Can you slow down for a minute?
Yes. So you're trying to increase the twist weight, which is like the stability and forgiveness of the paddle, as much as possible.
Stability and forgiveness. Got it.
And use like the least amount of lead tape to achieve it. So you want to keep the swing weight and the static weight down while improving the stability and forgiveness. So essentially, you want to make the paddle easier to play with without it getting too heavy on us.
Okay.
And so I messed with, based on some, experiments I've done in the past with lead tape, like I had an idea of where the spot might be. So it was just like under 3 hours. I was just at my table messing with a ton of different locations and was measuring the swing weight and the twist weight kind of in tandem with these different lead placements. And I did it on 2 different paddles just to kind of see how they compared, make sure that if I did find that sweet spot, that it was the same for both paddles. And it was. So I found the sweet spot. It was very similar for both paddles. So I think this is kind of a universal lead tape placement that is different than what a lot of people, conventionally thought was the best place to put lead tape. So the most common place I see people put lead is on the throat of the paddle. So if I pull this out, like it's right here, right? They'll put like 4 to 5 inches right here on the throat.
Yep.
And yes, that makes the paddle more stable and that will improve the swing weight. But I found that by putting the lead tape just above the corner, starting at this flat spot of the paddle and going up, you can use less tape total, so less weight, and achieve the same or similar twist weight measurements and swing weight measurements. So basically, you're adding less tape and getting the same, the same performance back than you were adding more tape at the bottom, which is really interesting because like this is very different than what a lot of people are saying. But it's I thought it was kind of a game changer. Like you can add potentially 2 grams less and have the same performance, which means you can put more weight in these spots and have an even higher twist weight with the same amount of weight as you were using before, while still maintaining the exact same, like swing weight increases. And so a lot of benefits, I think, to putting the lead tape in this spot. If this doesn't make me famous, like I don't know what will.
Right.
Right. Like this is a potentially a pretty big deal. Like if you deal with, like if your wrist hurts when you're playing and you have lead on there, like this is a potential alternative to relieve, some weight and some wrist pain, but still maintaining that strong stability. And so I think there's a lot of benefits to this placement. I got a ton of comments. People will be trying it out here soon, and we'll be hearing what people think. But that's I think that's going to be the most efficient place to put lead tape.
I want to try it. Can you put your link to that 1/2-inch lead tape in the description too?
Yeah. So what I used was just a roll of 1 gram per inch lead tape. If you just like search on Amazon,
okay,
1
I just have the 1/4 inch, and I feel like it's not
up.
very much.
Yeah, you have to add at least 4 to 6-8 grams to really make a noticeable an impactful difference on the paddle's performance.
Okay.
But that's give it a try. And as a plug, so I've been working on a lead tape project, like a product to bring to market, and I just made my first order for it, and so I'm really excited about it. It's tungsten tape instead of lead tape. So lead tape isn't the best for your health. Like if you're messing with it and touching it, and then you go eat a sandwich, like it could be potentially bad for you. And if you have kids in the house and you're using lead tape, like if they get a hold of it and put it in their mouth or something, like it's not good. So tungsten tape is like a better alternative, like kind of health wise. And I was able to find a manufacturer that can make it in a roll for me. It's going to be 1 gram per inch. And I'm really, really excited about it. It looks really cool. It's very sexy. It's like this kind of dark charcoal color. It's more flexible. It fits to the paddle really well. Lead tape's kind of stiff. So there's a lot of really cool things about this tungsten tape, but it is more expensive. And so I'm nervous about that. It's like, I think you can get a roll of lead tape from a manufacturer for like, $2-3. And this is costing me a lot more than that. And so I'm going to have to charge more for it. So I'm nervous if people are going to be willing to pay, but I think the stuff's awesome. We're going to bring it to market and see how it does, but that'll hoping 2 or so months might be able to have that ready to purchase, but really, really excited about that project.
That's fun. Yeah. And I like the tungsten tape idea. My wife won't let me have my paddles anywhere near my son.
Yeah, there you go. So like Selkirk has tungsten tape, but like it's so light. And like
it was like 0.5 grams.
Yeah, you have to like put
strip.
10 strips on there for it to do anything. So this is actually meaningful weight that's still tungsten. I'm actually very surprised no one else has done it. There might be somebody working on it now. I don't know. I'm like anxious to bring it to market. It's like, I gotta get this out there before somebody else does. But really pumped about that. And then so sticking with our paddle babble topics. So Ben Johns wins his 100th career PPA gold medal. Yeah. He was as part of like a ceremony, and they're talking to him afterwards. They hand him like a platinum Joola paddle, and they made like this huge deal out of it. And then Joola dropped a limited release special edition paddle celebrating Ben Johns' 100th gold medal. So they're charging $1,000 for this like set. It's a Ben Johns Perseus 16 millimeter. It has like a gold rim around it. It's coming in a fancy case. It's got a picture of Ben and all the paddles and his signature or something. $1,000. They're only selling 100 of them.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think of that? Like, if you had $1,000 laying around, would you buy one? Do you think it's going to be worth more 20 years from now when Ben retires?
I don't know. I'm not buying it, but what a real flex if you don't even like put it on a shelf and you bring it to the court.
You actually play with it instead of
You just,
like
you just play with it, and then you find out it's just like really crappy paint, and it just starts chipping on you as you play. That would be good.
that'd be
I
really
don't know.
funny. But if you buy it, please don't play with it. It would hurt.
Yeah, I mean, if this was 2 years ago, they would have an NFT attached to it, and everybody would be buying it up because it would be a big deal. So, I mean, maybe it's a collector's item, and I think somebody who's really into pickleball and is retired and has extra income, why not? Literally put it behind you as a piece of artwork for a while and save the. It comes with like a big old hefty case, right? So
Yeah, it's like this massive like briefcase. Looks like something you take to a drug deal.
I might just like I might put the paddle on my wall, but then use the case at the court.
Yeah, there you go.
Just roll up
There's
with
the
the case.
flex. There's the flex.
Yeah, I don't need a big fancy bag. I got this case, man.
Yeah. So what if I told you I actually bought one?
Well, then I might ask you to like send me the paddle, let me hit with it a couple times, and then I'll let you know what I think. It'll be a really good review.
So I did it, dude. I bought one. I was like, I have $1,000 in my Pickleball Effect bank account. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna.
Are you gonna do a video on it?
No, I'm not gonna hit that thing. I'll just hang on to it. And I'll sell it to you 10 years from now for 20 grand.
Thank you. But really, I don't want to give away that. I know you haven't mentioned. This is the first time I'm hearing this, but I think you should create a replica of the $1,000 paddle and then make a video telling people you played it.
That I hit it.
But it's not that one. It's another one. You spray paint it gold.
Spray paint it. Like, yeah, like from a video, if you're 20 feet away, you can't tell.
Exactly. That would be funny. I just got my $1,000 paddle in the mail. Let's go play.
I just lost my first game with it. Huck it.
Yeah, you just like throw it in the trash can at the end of the video. Isn't good.
And then last piece here is Annalie announced her own personal brand. So she dropped her logo on her Instagram and says she has a signature paddle coming with Paddle Tech in a couple of months. I thought the logo looked sweet. It has like, her initials, a cool little crown on top. She deserves it. She's won enough Triple Crown. She can have a crown in her logo. And she's got finally her own signature paddle. Like, why don't they have one yet? But it's coming now.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I mean, so Tyson is the only other one that I really feel like has a noticeable brand because he puts it on his big water bottle and it's just like that TM. It's really cool.
Yeah. It's like, I actually think it's pretty cool looking.
Yeah. And I mean, I know Ben Johns has his own signature paddle, but there's not a lot of other brands that I feel like really stick out to me as far as personal brands.
Yeah. I know. So like Jay DeVilliers tried making one. I don't know if he still wears his JD thing, but he made one.
He's doing a good job with it. I think it's been popping up more and more recently is Dylan. Yeah, have you seen Dylan Frazier's thing? It's like it almost looks like the TikTok logo or something.
I actually can't think of what it looks like, but I know he made one.
His mom has been wearing it in the stands too. It's like it says like DF. Maybe it's got a T for his initial, like his middle initial or something. But no, I mean I think it's cool that these guys are coming out and creating personal brands. Annalie's logo was cool, but I was surprised that it wasn't more like feminine from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah,
like I don't
sharp angles.
Yeah, I mean it looked a little masculine. I'm just curious, like, are there a bunch of young girls that want to be like her that are going to rock that? I don't know. Maybe they will. We'll see.
Yeah, that's could be. I'll let you know as my girl grows up if she wants to wear it.
Yeah, I'm really curious, like who
that's a good marketing mind take. I didn't consider that, but now you say it, it's like, yeah, it kind of does have that feel a little bit. But either way, still looks sweet.
Maybe they'll hire me to do.
But maybe I think it looks sweet because I'm a male.
Yeah, right. Like you may like it because you're male. So we'll see. I like to see more people come out with it with brands.
Yeah, I know there's got to be more, but those are the ones. Those are the ones that are winning apparently, because they're the only ones I can think of that we can think of.
I mean, if Tyson watches this, I want one of those hats. He charges like $40 for it though. I just don't want to pay.
Send us a hat, Tyson.
Yeah.
Logan will wear it.
I wear a hat every episode. It's just a sponsored area. Come on.
Put it up on the hat.
Let's go.
All right, moving to our last section, Average Joe's Talking Pros. So we're in Cincy this weekend. Give us the highlights.
Whew, man. I mean, I feel like it was a lot of the same, but I think that the one thing that sticks out today was was fed, beating Ben Johns in singles, which is a big deal.
Yes.
Really big
He's
big
beaten
matchup
Ben
there.
before, so this isn't a first.
Back in April.
But it's been a while.
February, something. It was early in the year. And he did beat him early in the year, but I think it's fun to have someone different win there, and he deserves it. He's been
and on a finals day when Ben is supposedly most honed in rather than like early in a round where he's lost in the past.
Yeah,
when he's not quite as engaged, and so he knocked down on his big 100 gold day.
Yeah, at that point, I just wonder if he was over it or not, but if he was a little tired. But at the same time, I don't want to take away the win. So huge deal there, which is great. Of course, he won.
Fed is so fun to watch, dude. Like I love his like kind of drive and crash. He's one of the best at finding like a tough third or a good drive, following it up and like finishing whatever's in the midcourt. It's really fun to watch. Very entertaining.
You know what else he's great at, which I'll I can't gamble in South Carolina, but I would love to do like you ever do prop bets for fun? Like, you know what a prop bet is?
No, I don't.
All right, so a prop bet is like funny, goofy stuff. Like we'll do it during the Super Bowl with my friends where you have to guess the over under on the minutes of how long the national anthem will be. Over under 2 minutes, right? It's like a funny bet. But I think it'd be a funny one if you ever heard Dave Fleming say cat and mouse, like how he says the cat. If you had like the over under on how many times cat and mouse would be said by Dave Fleming, it's got to be like 35. But
I think Memes of Pickleball did some prop bet type stuff when gambling was first announced. Like how many times is Dave Fleming going to make a sexual innuendo comment or something?
But Fed's good at the cat and mouse game. That's what I was trying to say. All that to say that he's good. I like seeing him at the net. It's really wild when they there's just that to me is where in singles specifically, if you go out and play singles on your own and then you watch these pros, some of the balls they get back is just insane.
Singles to me is more entertaining than doubles when you have the best players in the world playing. So when you have, Anna Leigh against, Catherine Parento, when you have Ben against Fed, like those matchups are so fun to watch. And I think are more entertaining than doubles, but you just don't get many of those matchups. It's not until like the semis and the finals where you get those matchups. A lot of the earlier rounds just aren't as fun to watch, but when you get those studs on the court, I think it's the most entertaining pickleball.
I mean, and even I'll tell you the best match I've seen all year is that match. It was actually an APP match. It was that singles one where, what's this kid's name? I'm sorry, I'm blanking on it. He plays the Adidas paddle. He's young.
Sobek?
Yes. And did you see this one where he beat the guy that was like, he had never even got to the championship before. He's a former tennis player, but he was down. Like it was a, you know how they play, if you come through the back draw, you have to play to 15 at the end.
Right.
He was down like 12-3 or something insane, and then ended up winning. And
cool.
But it was a singles match, and I feel like some of these singles matches just become epic showdowns, like Leah and Anna Leigh. That was an epic one.
Yeah,
from Texas or whatever. It's great.
Some legendary ones there. Yeah. I agree. It's really fun to watch, and potentially down the road as more and more talent comes in, like maybe singles starts to overtake some of the ground of doubles popularity as far as viewership goes. It'll be interesting because singles tennis is by and large much more watched than doubles tennis. US Open was this weekend, by the way. I was watching it before we jumped onto this. I watched the second set of the Medvedev Djokovic match, and Djokovic won it in the tiebreak. So he was up 2 sets this year. I imagine he finishes him off.
Probably so. I mean, for the U.S. Open, this could have been the tale of the youngsters who were going to like take over. It's like basically next gen, but didn't happen.
Yeah, Shelton.
It should have been like Shelton and Alcaraz. That could have been like, now the youngsters are coming up. But
right.
I mean, Medvedev's kind of young, but he's definitely not as seasoned as Djokovic. But he's been in the tour for a while now. So
yeah. I did watch the Shelton semifinal. Yeah, he put up a good fight in the third set. He just doesn't have the consistency. It's just not quite there yet, but still fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So some other stuff from this weekend. So it was in the men's final. It was Dylan and J-Dub against The Johns came out on top. It doesn't seem like Dylan and J-Dub have the game to beat them, in my opinion. It seems like the people who put the most pressure on the Johns are like the Tellez and Stactures, who just come out firing, just, shoot everything, play fast. Where Dylan and J-Dub they like playing a little slower, which just kind of feeds into the John style. And so, as good as J-Dub and Dylan are, I just don't feel like the way they play is set up to beat the Johns. And so I don't know if they'll ever overtake them, in my opinion. What do you think?
No, I don't think so either. I was thinking today, like, because we had this conversation in a podcast early on about, like, is it too boring with Ben Johns and Leigh winning all the time? And I thought about it more today because, again, he won twice. And I was like, gosh, same old story. But maybe now with people getting contracts, maybe as players can train more. Like, I know Dylan and J-Dub are already training full time. So maybe they're just not the partner duo to do it.
Yeah.
But there's also some rumors going around that JW is likely going. I mean, maybe it's applicable. They're going to like split ways, but I think that he wants to play with Gabe in the future. I think they practice a lot together and they have fun together. So, maybe we'll see Dylan branch off and go with someone else too. That now that JW and Dylan are split, is there a chance? And if they're all training full-time pickleball because their finances allow it, could someone come up and really challenge the Johns?
Yeah, would be the only way, right? That I think something could happen is that scenario.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. But I mean, yeah, Riley, this weekend, that's the other little storyline, is I think we're all kind of watching to see how Riley shakes out after he decided to ditch Matt. And I don't know if you picked up on this, but I don't remember him even mentioning Thomas Wilson as a potential partner.
No, he didn't. And then all of a sudden he signs up with Thomas Wilson. I actually like that matchup. I think Thomas brings a ton of firepower, which is part of the reason he's so good at mixed, is he just puts so much pressure on the other side. You can just hit the thing 100 miles an hour. And so, like, Thomas was in the mixed final.
Yeah.
Today, but I like that matchup. I think there's a lot of upside with those two playing together, but they didn't pull it off. They didn't medal. Oh, actually, I think did they lose in the semis? They qualified for the third, and then I think they withdrew, and Ignatowicz and Tyson ended up taking third or something like that.
I did, yeah. I know Tyson and James got third, but I wasn't sure about the withdrawal.
I like them together. I think that match pairing makes more sense than AJ Cole, or maybe Julian could work. He's kind of the same way as Thomas, plays fast.
Yeah,
but I mean, didn't pull it out. Did Matt Wright play?
I swear I saw him with Lucy in mixed, so I'm not sure what happened in men's. I didn't see.
I didn't look what he did. Usually, he makes a good run with whoever. But regardless, Riley hasn't had near as much success since he's left Matt. So could have been the wrong move. It doesn't seem like it's paying off for him yet. We'll see if he can find the right partner.
We'll also see if he can be a leader in MLP. I just keep hearing on Twitter that he is a player that people don't like to play with, and I'm not sure how truthful that is, or if that's just fans seeing whatever they see on TV. But that could be a problem if his teammates don't like him and he puts maybe unfair pressure on them. But I'll be really interested to see like how MLP shakes out.
Yeah.
Because he's got to be the best player.
He hasn't done anything spectacular with MLP to date. So yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah. We already touched on like Ben Johns getting his 100th gold. I think that is a really cool accomplishment right now. If everything stays the way it is now, where PPA and MLP split up, next year it's just going to get a bit egregious. I mean, he'll be at 150 at the end of next year or something stupid. So
yeah,
really cool.
I'm gonna have to buy the 200 Padel 200 gold edition.
Yeah, next Christmas, exactly.
and when's Anna Leigh at 100? She had another triple crown. I'm gonna have to get her 100th.
I saw a crazy stat. What I saw that they put up a stat that was something like 18 mixed golds for Ben Johns, and 8 were with. No, it was triple crowns. 18 triple crowns for Ben Johns. 8 of them were with Anna Leigh. So she's got to be getting up there.
Yeah, she can't be far behind.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in other news, so let me talk APP for a second. I was the classic winners that are all MLP coming up kind of made it through. Andre and Rob won against Hunter and Yates. But then my local guy got third. Jayden Broderick got third this weekend, which was really cool. So yeah, that's exciting. I would love to see him. He's in the next gen, but I'd love to see him like continue to break through.
How old is he?
He's gonna be a senior in high school, so I don't know, 17.
Oh, I didn't realize he was so young. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I think his parents want him to go to college. But I mean, you see like Jack Monroe's doing that. He lives in Austin, but I think maybe you could use college as an advantage to get you to a city that has a lot of good pros.
You can do college and play at the same time. It's been done before. See no reason why you can't pull it off.
Unless you get a fat deal from MLP or PPA, and then
maybe
you can delay it.
You got Colin Schick, who just is starting to improve and make a name for himself, but he's recently graduated with some sort of doctorate degree.
I mean, I think he's in med school, like legitimately. I mean, that could be a long haul.
That's probably a harder decision for him to like leave that for pickleball.
100%. And if you really have a passion for being a doctor, then it's like even makes it even harder.
Right. And that's gonna, I mean, in the long run, right? Like you can be a doctor for, twice, three, your career there is a lot longer than as a pickleball player. Yeah. Although wouldn't it be as fun? Wouldn't be as fun,
right? With quality of life, Braydon.
Quality of life. These are decisions. But yeah, kind of sticking with other news, other leagues. So Major League Pickleball announced a deal they made with an Australian team tour. So what are the details there? Did you see that?
Yeah. So I actually chatted up. Remember, I told you last time that it's called the NPL, National Pickleball League, followed me on Instagram. So I had to dig into them, figure out what they were.
Yes.
So I messaged them to ask them about this deal and what it kind of meant for the sport. And so he said that Pacific Pickleball League is who MLP signed a deal with. They're announcing like maybe I think next weekend is their inaugural tournament that's going to be branded MLP. But the guy from National Pickleball League told me that right now, for context and size, there's about 20,000 players in Australia. So it's very, very small compared to what we have in the United States. So it's very new. He said the players are definitely nowhere near the level we have, but he thinks this is probably just like a really good step in the next direction of international expansion.
Yeah.
And
start somewhere.
Yeah. And like, this guy admitted that he doesn't think that Australia will see the massive adoption that the US did, but he's seeing it take off really fast. So that could be the next country where we have big players coming out of. And it'd be really cool to see someone like, you think about this Ben Johns thing, like who knows if there's a Ben Johns of Australia or Europe.
Yeah.
That if they play enough and play high quality pickleball, they could be,
they surface.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's definitely the right direction. You got to invest there. You want it to be a worldwide sport. If money revenue wise, like for the league, they're going to benefit from that massively. And yeah, it's just the more talent that you can find, the better, right? There's more people around the world than there are in the States. And so we'll see how the expansion happens outside the States. I remember for a long time, Padel was like a big conversation point where it was like the fastest growing sport worldwide, while pickleball was the fastest growing sport in the States. But it's been a while since I've seen any conversation about that. I wonder if it's cooled off or if I don't know. I just haven't seen anything about Padel in a bit. Have you?
Well, I recently played pickleball with a former head tennis pro at one of the clubs in town. I knew him because I got my rackets strung over there. And he's European, right? So he was telling me about Padel, and he just mentioned that it's extremely popular in like Spain and I think maybe in South America. And I imagine it is growing. The hard part, he said, is like they put a club in Miami, and there was another club he mentioned, and he's just like, it's expensive to build. It's very affluent people that are playing it because, so like you kind of have to install it at a place where there are like folks from those countries that are willing to go in and kind of help others who are new to the sport adopt it and learn it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's nowhere near as easy to pick up and like accessible.
So kind of, yeah. See, that's a great point. Like, it looks fun. I actually really want to try it. It looks a lot of fun, but to your point, right? Like, pickleball is growing so fast, at least in the States. For part of the reason people like it is for the accessibility. Why can't I say it? Part of the reason like it because it's easy to play, right? And so that's just something that's unique to pickleball. And golf doesn't have that, tennis doesn't have that, and Padel may not have that either. So yeah, that's going to hurt growth as far as like scaling it, but it does look fun. I do want to try it one of these days.
Yeah, I like to try it too. Like, I'm sure everyone now knows that I'm a big F1 fan, but the F1 players every now and then will have like posts on Instagram of them playing it together.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But who has more money than them, right? So they go play when they can for fun, but at somebody's club, and they drive their Ferraris off into the coast, into the sunset, right afterwards. But I think also you got to be careful about. I'll tell you one thing that's interesting is like the growth rate numbers that get thrown around. You'd be really careful about those and taking too much stock in them, because when it's really low numbers, the growth rate can look extreme when it's still not a massive impact.
It's like a startup company, right? Like, oh, we doubled our revenue 4 years in a row. Well, yeah, you aren't making very much the first.
Yeah, right. So like, I'm at $1 million now, right? So I doubled it from 20 to 40, 40 to 80. It's like, it sounds great, but it's still small numbers. So pickleball is at a point where we need to be talking about like retention of the sport. If 40 million played it, are we getting 40 million people to come back? And then is that growing with new players, 20 million new players the next year or something?
Yeah.
But based on my local courts, man, it's been insane.
Dude, same.
And we're all talking about like how we see, like, we don't recognize anyone anymore.
Yeah. I know, I'm the same way, dude. Like, I don't play open play very often. Like, it's always, like 95% of the time it's organized. But in the last couple of weeks, I did some open play stuff, and I set up some games, during like prime hours that I don't normally set up games for. And I could not believe how packed the local courts were. Like, it was just blew my mind. I go to this place in Boise called Hobble Creek. I went early in the morning on a Saturday, and just paddle lines out the wazoo. Like, you had to wait 45 minutes for a game. And even with my local courts, so I have, 20, 30 minutes outside of Boise, and there's some courts close to my house. I went there to do some open play with my dad because he was in town over Labor Day weekend. Same thing, dude. It was like, we waited, I think, a little over 50 minutes to get our first game. And I was just like, it just blew my mind. I was like, I don't know any of these people. They're all using terrible paddles. They can't be that great. Sorry. They can't.
Losers.
They can't have been playing very long. And there's just tons of new people, just flooding. I actually got this confrontation a little bit with this group. So this is what I was playing with my dad over Labor Day weekend. And there's 6 courts. 4 of them were like doing the paddle thing, and like people are waiting a long time to get in to play games. And there's this court where there's 2 people that were obviously new, and 2 people were kind of teaching them, and they'd been there like the whole time I'd been there, and weren't swapping out. And so I went and talked to him, and I was like, I understand you're new. But you got to realize that there's tons of people waiting. It's just fair to swap it out and keep things moving. I'm sorry you can't get the time you want to learn the game. You'll have to just come back at a time where it's not as less people are here, less busy, whether it's the afternoon or evening or something. And they didn't like that. They didn't come off the court. They talked to me for a second and then just ignored me while I kept talking and just kept playing. So I was like, okay. But that made me a little grumpy. Just didn't think it was fair for everyone there to have to let them just have a court while everyone else is waiting just because they're new. Like, that didn't make sense to me. But that was just my take. But it is tough, if you're new and you want to get games and you're going during those prime hours. Like, it's hard to get some courts and learn how to play.
Yeah, and speaking of confrontations, I witnessed my first one this morning. We went out there early, and it had rained last night, so a bunch of people had already dried off some courts, and we were working on drying off others. And it started to get a little busier, right? So people were stacking on the rack, and all of a sudden, like, this court in the corner, you hear them saying like, "Oh, we're not going to leave this court because we cleaned it up and we dried it off," and they didn't want to. There was wet.
Yeah, okay, this
This was
like
funny.
I can see where they're coming from, right? Like they dried it off. What happened?
So there were 3 courts open. However, they were really wet, like puddles on them. And so they were like, listen, there's 3 courts. They can go dry those off and work on them or whatever. We kind of worked hard on this court.
Yeah.
And the next court over was just like, dude, we all did the same thing. Like, it's just nice to like, they said something along the lines of it's nice to just come off the court
nice.
and follow the flow. They're like, screw that. Like, we asked whoever, and they said, if you put in the work, you stay on the court. And then this woman just as loud as you can be was like, curse words were thrown, and
the people staying on the court.
And they're like,
I wasn't that bad. I was tame then.
Oh man, she like let her rip, and I was like, I turned my head, I was like, oh shoot, dude, I've never
were you like
been a part
cringing
of
as
this.
you watch? You're like, ooh.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, and they were starting anyway. I
away,
thought it was fine.
Back away.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. I feel like it's a little too political if I give my thoughts on it, because on one side it can be a little too liberal to say like, oh, share with everyone, and then on the other side it's like, well, I did put in the work,
Yeah.
But
I mean, if there are 3 courts available that haven't dried off, I think it's fair to say that go dry those off first.
Yeah.
And once they're all full, then start rotating.
Then start moving. Yeah.
That's my first thought there. So I'm kind of on their side a little bit.
Yeah, I was fine with it too. It was funny to witness that, because I've not witnessed confrontations at our court very often at all, maybe. So
yeah, when you have so many people in one place, it's bound to happen.
Yeah, you're telling me. Lots of personalities.
Well, there you have it. Thanks for joining, everyone. Appreciate you following along and listening in. We'll see you next time.